great runner. Up next is going to be Castlevania Symphony of the Night with Dragon Blitz. Take it away.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I am Dragon Blitz. This is going to be Castlevania Symphony of the Night, the Alucard All Bosses category speedrun. And yeah, we'll talk about the run as we get into it. There's a lot to go over, just executionally, and like all the different glitches and stuff we're going to be going through. This game is quite broken. There's a lot I need to explain, so I'm going to be talking very fast. But I'll try and keep it as concise as I can. But with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. I'll give you guys a countdown in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, at the very beginning of the game, I'm actually going to be playing as the alternate character, Richter, instead of Alucard. This is the prologue sequence. The important thing to note about the prologue sequence is everything that I'm doing here is actually important for setting up my stats and my equipment at the end of the prologue sequence when I start playing as Alucard. 5, 6. And the important thing to note about damaging Dracula here is I'm going to be using Hydro Storm, which is an item crash ability from using the Holy Water. I'm also going to be throwing the Holy Water on the ground after using the Hydro Storm. It gives you a random chance to do extra damage. You can see Dracula's health bar just completely melt there because of the extra damage. And then I want to end with 0 hearts. That's also important for an extra item I'm going to get. But yeah, that's the prologue sequence done very, very quickly. And we are basically immediately going into our first glitch of the run. At the start of the game, you start with very powerful equipment. This equipment is meant to be taken away from you in a cutscene with the Grim Reaper, aka Death. And we're going to be doing a glitch known as the Death Skip. The specific glitch we're going to be doing is called a reverse shift line. And essentially what that means is we are going to be manipulating where Alucard gets sent after a screen transition. By pausing the screen at a specific point on the screen. And I just have to be very careful in this room, randomly spawning zombies. Okay, made it through there. And yeah, so one of the items I even got from the prologue sequence is known as the Neutron Bomb. I'm going to be using that to get my level up off this last warg in the room. And that's going to pause the screen and activate the reverse shift line. So I'm going to use the map to buffer the inputs to make it a tiny bit easier. Let me see if I can get it. That should be it. There we go. And just like that, the screen flashed there for a second. That was the room where Death would have taken away my equipment, and I completely skipped it, keeping all this overpowered equipment, and we can move on with the rest of the run. Some of you may be familiar with a more popular version of the Death Skip, where you use like a large damage boost to pass through that room, and that just turns out to be slower in basically every speedrun category, so we use this version instead.
Is this version more of a recent development, or is it kind of just like a general thing?
As of around like 2013, 2014, Sockfolder himself actually was the one that discovered the reverse shift line glitch, and we've been using it basically ever since. Ever since I've been speedrunning the game, I've been using that version of Death Skip. So. One of the main forms of movement you're going to be seeing me do here is backdash canceling, in this case known as shield dashing. I'm essentially pressing the backdash button and then canceling it with the shield over and over and over again. There's a common misconception that you need to like mash the buttons as fast as possible to go like optimally fast in this game. A human can never really like do optimal mashing, so it's much more important to like keep a steady rhythm and focus more on like platforming, cutting your jump short, and like doing combat more efficiently. And speaking of efficient combat, this is going to be our first boss fight of the game. And as you're going to see, yeah, I'm a little overpowered. Boss fights in this game are very trivial in general, and in this category in particular as well. And since we're going to be fighting all the bosses, the actual meat of this category is much more about the movement in between the bosses. They're more of just like checkpoints along the way. But the actual boss fights themselves are not going to be any trouble really at all. But yeah, I guess to explain a little bit about like the main goal of this run outside of beating all the bosses. At the very beginning, shield dashing is fast, but would be even faster is if we had the Bat Relic. The Bat Relic, if you know anything about this game, gives you the ability to transform into the Bat, and it has a specific spell attached to it known as the Wing Smash, and it goes very, very fast. So we are going to try and go as fast as we can to get the Bat Relic. And in order to do so, I'm going to have you look in the top left-hand corner of your screen as I enter this next room. This is the clock room. I need to come back here later, and that statue that just moved in the top left-hand corner, it actually moves in and out of your way in a minute cycle. So every other minute, it's either in your way or out of your way. So in the first 8 minutes of the game, essentially, we are going to collect all of the different relics and movement items that we can before having to come back there. And as long as we get there in under 8 minutes, we're actually not losing any time because it is stuck on a global cycle, blocking our path until the 8-minute mark. So, I mean, it's nice to go fast here, but essentially there is a decent amount of wiggle room for mistakes to happen, and I'm still technically on world record pace at this point going forward. So it's a very chill section at the very beginning of the run. But moving forward, the thing that we do need is going to be the wolf relic, specifically because we're going to use it to do an unintended means of gaining height. Because the main reason we can't get past that statue is because our singular jump isn't high enough to actually reach the platform up there. So we're going to get the wolf transformation, and the wolf transformation is unique in a way because it allows for two different kinds of mechanic abuses, which is both the slope jump mechanic and having an aerial dive kick unintendedly. So normally you're supposed to have real quick to cut myself off here. This next boss fight isn't much of a boss fight. We're going to be using the stopwatch sub-weapon that I have to kill this boss. It's one of the few bosses that's actually affected by the stopwatch sub-weapon. So as you can see here, he's just going to stand still and let me kill him. This is a boss fight that I feel like a lot of people growing up might have had a lot of trouble with because he's really cheap. He reads your inputs and just hits you before you hit him, all that fun stuff. Just cheap AI. But yeah, using the stopwatch, he's very easy to deal with. And yeah, our next objective is going to be getting that wolf relic. It allows us to do slope jumps, which I'll show off very, very quickly after grabbing it, as well as giving us the ability to dive kick in the air by untransforming in the air as the wolf. The game doesn't intend for you to be able to dive kick that way, but it just kind of works out that you get a dive kick that way. And we can use that dive kick to gain extra height off by dive kicking off of enemies. Real quick, I'm just going to kill this guy because I don't really like him. He's a jerk. And I'm going to go for this frame perfect floor clip. Let me see if I get it. I was like 1 frame off. It saves 2 seconds, but again, none of this time save really matters all that much. It's more for swag, if anything. And there's that wolf relic that we just got. We just need to press a switch to get past the elevator to grab it. And now I'm going to be showing off that slope jump ability. So I'm going to jump off this slope with some momentum, and it's going to give me extra height to get up here to grab this garnet. This garnet's going to be used later for a glitch in the shop. But yeah, it's an important thing to grab now. And now we're going back to that clock room that I talked about earlier with the wolf relic in hand, and we are going to be using that to get past the statue that blocks our path. Interesting thing to note about the wolf, outside of getting the dive kick and using the slope mechanics, you could also use the wolf for just general movement. Right here, it actually turns out to be faster to transform into the wolf and use the wolf's dash to move through this area. There's very situational areas where it just tends to be a tiny bit faster because the wolf maintains this fast speed even through the air, where Alucard can't shield dash in the air, he can only do it on the ground. And they move about the same speed between shield dashing and running as the wolf. The only issue is if you get hit as the wolf, you get taken out of this, and just like that, yep. So you want to do that section without getting hit, but if you get hit here, it's not that big of a deal. You just go the rest of the way as Alucard. And yeah, now here comes back to the clock room, and as you can see, this statue's blocking my path, and I can't really do anything about it, so we're just kind of sitting here chilling, and just like that, we're on world record pace. Let's go.
So there's really just a certain amount of time you can really save kind of going into this. So even if you're taking some damage early on, as long as you make it here before it moves, you're fine.
Basically, yeah. So almost every single run that makes it past the death skip, you're on world record pace.
That's
and just
awesome.
Like that, yep, we're going to be dive kicking off that candle, and this is where the real time save and time loss can begin. Right away, we're going to be going through the Olrox's quarters into the Colosseum. Just got to do some tight platforming to avoid these enemies. It's a little bit faster to avoid them than to try and defeat them. And going to avoid one more enemy. He can give you some trouble if you're not quick enough through that room, and onto the Colosseum. The Colosseum is an important place to visit because it gives you the Mist Relic, and the Mist Relic is required to get the Bat Relic later in the library. There's also a library card in this area that will teleport you instantly to the library, which is very convenient. And the last most important thing, one of the most important things for this run, is that there is the item known as the Shield Rod in the Colosseum as well. And that is basically like one of the most overpowered weapons in this game, in combination with the Alucard Shield, which we got from the very, very start of the game. And this boss fight's very unique because these bosses are going to be standing still, but I'm not actually using the stopwatch ability. They don't get affected by the stopwatch. They're actually waiting for the cutscene to finish playing out, except I actually skipped that cutscene, and the developers never like programmed what to do if the player skips the cutscene. So they're waiting for the cutscene to finish, but the cutscene never actually like finished in the proper way. So they just stand still, and you can just hit them until they die. And now that we've grabbed the Mist Relic, we're going to be grabbing that Shield Rod that I talked about earlier. Real quick, clearing the room with the Soul Seal. I'm going to be damage boosting off of a gunman here, and that's going to land me right on top of the Shield Rod. Library card out of there, and there we go. And immediately after all this fun stuff, we have another trick. This run is just full of different glitches and tricks. I'm going to be using a slope jump with the wolf in combination with a dive kick to get some extra height onto a ledge here. Let me see if I can do it. Very tricky. Ooh, bad RNG from the book, but I just barely made it onto that ledge. Oh my goodness, that is very, very tight.
Great job.
The books that fall out of that shelf there, they're a little bit random, the exact pattern that they give you. And if they give you an absolutely abysmal pattern, you can just like dive kick off of them, but also take damage on the same frame, and it's really annoying. And the reason we got the fairy card is because I'm going to be setting that fairy card up for a glitch here. Summon the fairy. Let me see if I can get it. Oh, very fast fairy there. There we go. We got it. And essentially what this is allowing me to do is to sell that garnet that I picked up earlier to this to the shopkeeper here while equipping it, which underflows it from 0 to 255. I'm going to be selling as many as I need to buy some of the most overpowered equipment in the game. I'm going to be buying this mana prism. And most importantly, the duplicator. And I'm also going to be using the shield rod at this point, applying the shield rod to my Alucard shield, and then re-equipping this mana prism. And from there, the mana prism gives me a refill of my mana basically whenever I use it, whenever I want. And that's important because mana is very important for going fast in this game. I'm just going to do some wolf platforming here. Nice. It's a little bit faster than moving his Alucard. This is another case where using the wolf is nice. I'm going to go for a damage boost. Random which kind of damage boost you end up getting. I got a decent one. There's one that sends you like through the room and is a little bit faster.
Sure.
But now we're going to be seeing the Alucard shield going to work, absolutely obliterating that boss. It's done in like a fraction of a second.
All right, while you're murdering this guy, I got to rapid fire some questions here because this is going fast and I got some questions.
Real quick, before
go ahead.
there is a huge skip coming through here. This is probably
definitely
one of the hardest skips in the game. It's the library floor clip. I'm going to be using the wolf to clip into the floor here, using the map to help buffer the inputs because it is like double frame perfect. That's the wrong frame. I'm going to try one more time. There it is. All right. Whew, that still saves time if you get it second try. So.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's one of the more technical tricks in this game. And now that we have the Bat Relic, we can use the Bat Relic using the Wing Smash spell that I was talking about earlier to fly very, very quickly and just completely escape the library that way. It's a little bit faster than doing it the intended way by like leaving the way that we can.
Sure.
And the Wing Smash itself as like the last little bit, because we have a tiny bit of talking room after this next section. The Wing Smash is a very technical input. The way that you perform it, it's you hold the jump button, and then while you're holding the jump button, you have to do a 3/4 circle motion on the joystick or D-pad, and then release the jump button. You have to do this over and over again within like about a second. And if you miss the input, you drop out of the Wing Smash and you transform back into Alucard, and it's quite slow. And you don't get to keep any of that really good momentum. So every time you see me flying there, every second I'm doing a 3/4 circle input while holding and releasing the jump button. And we can use that to like maneuver through these rooms extremely quickly. This being one of the hardest rooms in the game. All right, nice. Making it through that gap there.
All right. All right, so really quick. One, what does the duplicator do? Because I know the mana prism gives you mana. I don't know what the duplicator does. It seems really expensive.
It's very, very expensive, and the mana prisms, in combination with the duplicator will allow you to use infinite uses of any single-use items, such as like potions or mana prisms, or I even grabbed buffalo stars, which are single-use items.
Got you.
So yeah, that's why we buy it. Specifically, it allows us to have infinite amount of mana. Otherwise, every time I do a wing smash and you see my mana, which is that blue bar at the top, go down, I would just run out and not be able to do wing smashes, which is quite slow compared to just being able to do them whenever I want. Another interesting thing of tech theory that you might have just saw me do is I'm actually dive kicking because I just grabbed the leap stone, which gives you access to both a double jump and a dive kick right through this room. I'm going to dive kick and transform into the bat, and the bat maintains your horizontal momentum when you dive kick and transform into it. So we're using that a lot to start our wing smash chains because it's a tiny bit faster than transforming without moving, because we're spending that entire transformation animation moving. There's another out of bounds I'm going to be doing here. Hold on. There's so much in this one.
No worries. My next question will come after that. That's cool.
Yes. It's frame perfect, and we got it. There we go. I'm using the heart refresh to pause the screen in this particular area. It's a chapel exclusive glitch, and it sends us out of bounds into this like black void, and we use this out of bounds to get into Olrox's quarters in an unintended way. And yeah, from here, we're going to be just doing some more like general movement with the bat now. You can see me zipping around, flying extremely quickly, and going to our next destination, which is the Olrox boss fight.
So, from my knowledge of Castlevania, I watched a bit of The Blacktastic, a fellow showrunner. What kind of controller do you use? Because I know he uses like an arcade stick, and you're on the Xbox 360, so like, do you have a preference? Does that really matter? Like, because I'm wondering, you're doing so many inputs, like, I'm assuming that has to be optimal.
Yes, so we have runners of all different shapes and sizes using all sorts of different controller configurations. Some people prefer the original like DualShock 1 controller because this game did originally come out on the PlayStation 1. We have people using DualShock 2s. I personally use a wired official Xbox 360 controller because that's just what I'm used to. A lot of runners will use fight sticks. When I play as the Richter character, which is a different type of character in this game, when I do the Richter runs, I actually use like a keyboard fight stick hybrid controller, because that's what I found to be most comfortable. So you can basically run this on whatever you want. Real quick, going for yet another out of bounds. Let me see if I can get it. This is gonna be tough to set up. I'll just go for it, YOLO. No, come on. It's frame perfect. Whatever. It's a tight one. It's one of those tricks where if you get it, you save 6 seconds, and if you don't, you just kind of move on. Because it is very, very difficult to set up without getting the initial setup, so.
Right.
But yeah, coming up here, this is like the last bit of movement relic that we're going to be collecting for the rest of the run. So this is the gravity boots that we're grabbing right here. It gives us a huge vertical jump by pressing down, up, and jump. And we're going to be chaining that in sections where we need to climb vertically, and then moving right into another floor clip, similar to the one that we did in the library using the wolf. I'm going to be going for another one right here. This one is just as technical, just as difficult. There we go. Oh, 1 frame off. No, I thought I got it. Dang. Yeah, I'm using the map to help buffer these inputs because doing this in real time without map buffering is near impossible. Second try is not bad. I will take that. And I guess to finish explaining a little bit about, because this game, there's a lot of different glitches that we can do. There's a lot of different ways to skip the intended way of beating the game. So the way that we route it is much more important to focus on like just killing the bosses in an optimal route. This boss in particular, if you've played this game casually, will drop an item known as the gold ring. It's one of the important like quest items to getting to the holy glasses item, which is required to get to the second castle normally without glitches. What we're going to be doing in this run is we're actually going to be performing a glitch that enters us into the room where Richter, basically the gatekeeper of the second castle, he's already saved and cleansed of his evil curse without the need for the holy glasses. And that is going to mean that we don't need to actually pick up those items. We can just escape out of there using some slick gravity jumps and bat movement there. Really cool. It's one of my favorite rooms in the game to go through quickly. And then immediately afterwards, thrown into yet another glitch. This next boss fight, there is a door that can deload if there's too many sprites on the screen. So my goal is to deload that door and then reload it on top of me, pushing me through the floor to allow me to escape the boss fight a tiny bit quicker. Let me see if I can get it. I have to just kill this boss while she's off screen. Enter the room. The door's not there. Now it is. It's going to push me into the ground, and I can leave the room. It saves like 10 seconds. It's very, very quick. There we go. Re-equip that mana prism. Grabbing this toadstool for a glitch I'm going to be doing later. And yeah, this is one of the tighter like wing smash sections in the game, because you don't want to touch any of this like sloped terrain, because what it ends up doing is it actually pushes the bat in the direction of the sloped terrain. Uh-oh, ran out of mana there. That's what it looks like when you run out of mana. It just forces you out of your transformation. The amount of mana that you have in the game is slightly random based off of your level ups, and it seems like I got a very bad mana roll. So it's very possible that like some of the tricks or strats that I'd be going for might not exactly work out the way that I want to. I might be a little tight on mana, but I will do my best to react accordingly. So every run is a tiny bit different because of that. Some strats you are able to go for, some you have to be a little more conservative because of the amount of mana that you have. But yeah, the first castle is almost over. Can you believe it? It feels like we just started.
It's been a very frantic run, but I do want to say I think pretty much understand everything that you're doing here, so I'm not at all confused by it. It's very fast, it's very fun.
Yes, this is my favorite category of the game because there's just so much going on so quickly all the time. Here's another out of bounds. This one's my favorite in the game. It saves exactly 1 second if you do it quickly. Oh.
Let's see.
There it is. I got the fast one too. That one's slightly random. So what you're doing is you're taking damage while stuck in a corner by collecting that toadstool item, which is like a joke item that's meant to do damage to the player. And it actually forces you into the ground, and then you touch the load zone from above. Otherwise, like the load zone's like 2 rooms away, and it's like not that far to just touch it normally. So it's not like a required glitch or anything like that, but it's one of my favorites. And here is the final boss of the first castle. I'm going to be using that library card again to get out of here quicker instead of backtracking through the way that we came. And that was the final boss of the first castle. All that's left for us to do is to go to the second castle, kill all the bosses there, and then join up with Dracula, beating Dracula, and finishing the game. So, and like I said before, we are going to be doing that glitch that allows us to interact with Richter in a way that he's already saved and we don't need to worry about the holy glasses at all. And that trick, I'm going to be going for a less consistent but slightly faster method. If I don't end up getting it, I'll go for the more consistent method. It's a more relatively recently discovered version of Richter Skip because there's so many different ways to skip this boss. Essentially, if you enter the room in a way that wasn't really intended by the developers, what ends up happening is that they load the default state for that room, which is Richter just being saved. So there's many different ways to do it, but the fastest way is to do a very particular jump while in the wolf transformation. So that's what I'm going to be going for right here. Ooh, missed it there. One more try. No. There we go. Got it. Nice. So I have to be careful there to skip the cutscene at the right time too, otherwise you soft lock, you'll just walk against the ledge forever. It's really embarrassing when it happens, but yeah, that trick, I jumped into the room using the wolf's skinny hitbox, and the game never detected me entering the room, so it essentially loads the default state for that room, which is Richter just being saved, so we can just move past there without having to worry about him at all. And that's basically the last bit of like crazy glitches or crazy tech for quite a while, so now is a more like just going to be basic movement from boss to boss. So this would be a great time to answer questions if people have any, or just you know.
All right. I'll keep an eye out for chat right now if any come up. But questions from me. So you said this is kind of like, I guess, your favorite category for this. What other kind of categories tend to be popular for this game?
Any percent no save corruption is the most popular category of this game, and no save corruption essentially means that you don't like do save corruption, which leads to arbitrary code execution, which leads to just pulling up the credits within the first like 3 minutes of the game. Sure. Because of course this game has that. Again, that was also found by Sockfolder. Yeah, that any percent no save corruption is the main category that most people play. This one is like any percent no save corruption, plus you also get to do a bunch of extra cool stuff with different kinds of movement and stuff.
All right, next question. Go ahead really quick.
I was just going to say, like, access to the gravity boots or the leap stone, which gives you access to like doing the dive kicks transformation into bat. That stuff isn't really like useful in any percent because it's faster to just skip it and use the bat to just fly everywhere. But this gives you access to a couple more movement options.
All right, so I got 2 for you here really quick from me. Or I guess 3 because you want to chat. One, So does a lot of the tech carry between Castlevania games? Like doing a lot of stuff here, can you take that to like, I don't know, like Aria of Sorrow or something? I'm not too well versed in the Castlevania series. I know some of it, but not all of it. And two really quick, what made you want to run this game?
What made me want to run this game? ROM Scout. To be 100% honest, if you guys know ROM Scout, you know exactly why. This is also one of my childhood favorites. I played this game a ton as a kid, and seeing the speedrun be so broken kind of lent me to being interested in learning how it works. And the community at the time when I was learning, it still is very, very open and welcoming. But there was just people that were super excited to have me like learn the game and all that fun stuff. So it was super easy to get into, and it still is that way to this day. If you check out the speedrun.com/SotN page, there's tons of info to get you started. There's a Discord group, the Long Library Discord group is the one that we hang out in, and like all the runners and all that. There's a ton of great resources in there. What was the first question?
I'll get to that one in a moment, but really quick, I saw a really good question in chat. So you play on the 360. Are there actually version differences between the games?
Oh my goodness, how many versions of this game even exist? There's so many, and they're all slightly different. The important thing to note is that the PlayStation version and the Xbox 360 version are essentially identical outside of load times and lag. The 360 version is faster when it comes to loading the game and reducing lag. But the most common or most recent versions of this game that exist, the Requiem port and the mobile phone port, those ones are based off of the PSP version, which was a remake. Yeah, there's a mobile port of this game that is actually quite feature rich, all things considered. Like, it's a very decent way to play the game if that's your only way to play. And it's relatively cheap too. I think it's like $3 in total. That's based off of the PSP port of the game that was originally bundled with Dracula X Chronicles, which was a completely different game. It was like a bonus game inside of a game. And that version is like not as good. It's not super accurate to the original, so a lot of people end up disliking it. A lot of glitches got patched out. So for the most part, people avoid speedrunning on that one too much. But it does have its own unique speedrun that's just different.
The question from earlier as well that I asked was, so does a lot of the tech in Symphony of the Night translate to other Castlevania games? I imagine you probably run more than one.
Yes, I'm very familiar. Well, I wouldn't say super duper familiar. This is my main game after all, but I am familiar with other Metroidvania-style Castlevania games, mostly. I'm not very good at the classic ones. They are too difficult for me, to be honest. But yeah, Aria of Sorrow, Dawn of Sorrow, Portrait of Ruin, Order of Ecclesia, those style of games. Some ideas kind of transfer over, but the tech is very, very specific to Symphony of the Night for the most part, especially the glitches. And like, there are some backdash canceling that exists in most of the Castlevania games that kind of transfers over, even though the muscle memory is not the same. But each one is kind of broken in their own unique ways. So they're like similar, but different. They're like, cousins in a way. But I would say if you're interested in speedrunning, you're probably going to be interested in the speedrun for Aria of Sorrow or the speedrun for Dawn of Sorrow or any of the other Metroidvania style Castlevania games, because they're all kind of like open-ended and broken in their own special ways.
All right. A lot of fun with that. I guess another one. What's the worst version of the game to run?
So it depends on what your definition of worst is. If you're trying to play as Alucard, I would say the Sega Saturn version is probably. I've ran the Sega Saturn version. It's not that bad, but it's very laggy. The game is kind of like incomplete in a lot of ways. It does have extra content, but that content is locked behind like a very poor optimized port. So I don't know. It does have its own unique individual character, which is Maria, that's specific to that version, and that speedrun's amazing. I definitely recommend checking out Sega Saturn versions of Maria speedruns, because that character is super overpowered. But if you want to play as Alucard, I don't recommend it. I would say stay away from the Requiem port if you can. It's probably like my least favorite out of the... If you have the chance to play on an Xbox 360, an Xbox One, or the Xbox Series S or X, this is all backwards compatible with those consoles. I recommend using that version, especially if you're interested in speedrunning, because those are the fastest versions to play.
Actually,
or if not, just playing the PlayStation version is perfectly fine.
So with the 360, the One and the Series X, or I should say the Xbone, are there load differences? Because I know, like, with certain games, you're on 360, you lose a lot of time through sheer loads, but this game looks really quick on the loading.
So because the backwards compatibility works in a specific way, from my understanding, I could be wrong, but I believe it's just emulating the Xbox 360. So the load times and lag essentially are identical.
All right.
So the only difference is a small amount of extra input delay when playing on the more recent consoles because it is emulation. But it's like hardly noticeable from my understanding. I don't play on those versions, so I can't speak from experience, but everybody that I know that has ran on those consoles says that it's like basically identical.
All right.
And yeah, this game is like super easy to get into if you're interested in like learning the speedrun. It's also super accessible as far as like emulation. If you're interested in like emulating the PlayStation version, that's where a lot of people end up playing the game, I believe. And the Discord has like tons of good resources for like how to set it up for speedrunning, as well as like different like extra tools you could add to stuff for like even like the randomizer, for example, because that's like a whole separate can of worms. There is a randomizer for this game that is extremely good. You can check it out at SotN.io if you're interested in learning more about it. The speedrunning community, basically like a member of our speedrunning community, built the randomizer himself. His name is Wild Mouse. Super awesome dude, and I highly recommend checking it out. We do races all the time in the Discord too of the randomizer.
Right.
So if you want to get into something a little more, like not like casual necessarily, because it is still like speedrunning, but it's a lot of people that are still new to the game that are like learning the game through the first time through the randomizer. It's a really good time. I definitely recommend checking it out.
I saw a few of these questions in chat, and I think you did explain, but just in case someone came in late. So how are you doing the thing where like the bat's like just charging, like I guess you're chaining the bat charges, or?
Yes. So this is the Wing Smash spell. So once you have access to the bat, you instantly have access to the Wing Smash. It's like a hidden mechanic, almost similar to like wall jumping in Super Metroid. What you have to do is you have to hold the jump button, do a 3/4 circle motion on either the D-pad or the joystick, and then release the jump button. And you have to chain that within 63 frames, about a second. So you have to repress the input every second, basically, that whole input chain. And if you miss that input, you drop out of the Wing Smash. And that's how I'm able to chain them super far. And here we are, coming up on basically the last trick of the game. This is another reverse shift line, similar to the one that I did to skip the death cutscene. This should work. And I'm going to be setting it up to basically skip the requirement for like extra relics and stuff to get to Dracula. 4, 5, 6. Here I'm flying in the ceiling to avoid basically like a barrier that checks to see if I've beaten specific bosses and collected their relics. It's slower to collect the relics, so instead I just skip them and do that skip instead. And here we are basically on the very end of the run. So it goes by really, really quickly, even though we're doing like a majority of the content of the game, every single boss in the game.
It's been a very fun, fast run.
Yeah. And yeah,
Are waiting for this little moment. Do you have any shout outs you want to give to anyone?
Shout outs to everybody that is here from my Twitch channel. I see you guys in the chat. You guys are awesome. Shout out to everybody in the SotN community and everybody who speedruns this game, watches this game, supports runners of this game. This game is really what kind of got me into streaming, got me interested in like, you know, being involved in the speedrunning community at large. So I owe a lot to this game and the people that support this game and play this game. So thank you to you guys. And again, check out That's Time, by the way. Sorry. It goes by so fast, I forgot.
I didn't know that was the final boss. You said you were going to fight Dracula. Where did he go?
He was there. He's on the screen. Real quick, if you guys are interested in learning more about this game, I said it before, but speedrun.com/SotN, SOTN. There's a ton of resources there. The long library Discord, it's linked in the speedrun.com page. Join the Discord. We are always happy to have more people as a part of the community if you want to learn how to do these crazy glitches or just learn more about how this game works on the inside. It's a lot of fun. So thank you guys so much.
I want to slow it down for a brief moment here. So, Dragon Blitz, if anyone wanted to check out you personally as like a runner, as a streamer, as anything like that, Twitter, Twitch, all that, where can they find you?
I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/DragonBlitz. I upload a lot of stuff to YouTube that is like tutorial content, entertaining content, randomizer content on youtube.com/DragonBlitz1. I couldn't get the original. I don't know how. And then Twitter at DragonBlitz, all spelt the same way. And I actually made a tutorial for this category that is on my YouTube. I'm sure if you search DragonBlitz all bosses tutorial or SotN all bosses tutorial, it's going to pop up because I actually learned this category through friends teaching me in person, and not everybody has the luxury to have somebody sit them down and teach them. So I was inspired to make a full tutorial of the game, and it's you can start from basically zero and learn the whole category, and it's a lot of fun.